Something that I always tell aspiring programmers is that they should learn C first before learning Python. And it goes contrary to a lot of conventional wisdom. A lot of people who are trying to learn how to program, they are told to learn Python first because Python can help them build some cool projects, build some cool applications. But I always recommend C first because I think C really gives you a good foundation in software development. This was actually my experience. I first learned C, and then when I went into the workforce, I was told to code in C++, Python, Java, JavaScript, and I was able to do those things pretty well because I had a good foundation in C. And when I started looking at Python, when I was looking at Python code, it was really easy to pick up and it was really easy to understand because I had that background in C. Online, you'll see a lot of testimonies of this. So this person asked, is it worth it to learn C to better understand Python? So this person was a tutor in computer science, and they found that students who took Python lacked basic appreciation for and understanding how the language actually does something. And then he says, Python also lacks a number of nuances I consider it important to be aware of. You live your entire Python life blissfully unaware that everything is a pointer. From this standpoint, it is worth learning a language like C to gain an appreciation for how truly complex a lot of things Python allows you to do are. So you're going to see a lot of testimonies like this about how C really helps you understand Python and what it's actually doing. And so in this video, I'm going to go over an example of something that you would see in Python, and if you didn't have a background in C, you wouldn't really understand what's going on. But when I had a background in C and I saw something like this happening in Python, I readily understood what was going on under the hood. My name's Henrik, and I'm here to help you learn the foundations of software development. And I do have a free guide for you called my High IQ Software Checklist. And it's just a checklist that you can go through where you can audit your code bases, your projects, just to see if you're employing these high IQ principles. So you can download that in the link in the description. Okay, so I have this Python code here. We have two functions, double number and add tax. And then we have this variable mynum, which is 10, and then we pass it to double number. So double number just doubles the number, but we're going to print instead the original number. So what we should expect to see is 10 is going to go in this double number, and then when we print it out, it should still say 10 because we didn't change the variable here. But if we have a list like original prices, which is a list of 3, 100, 200, and 300, we pass it to add tax. And then we go in here and then we iterate through this array of this list here. And then we multiply by 1.05 and then we return prices. If we just call this function, you'll notice that original price is, well, the question is it going to change? Is it going to be like here? Is it going to be the same as it was before? Or is it going to change? And so let's run this one. Okay, so we see here the number is 10, so it doesn't change, it doesn't double the number because we just passed the 10 in here and then we didn't do anything about the return value, so number is just 10. But if you notice, list changed. So why is it that list changes? I mean, the original price is, if you put it in add tax, why does it change based on this function? But over here in double number, it doesn't change. 10 doesn't change based on this function. So what's the difference? Of course the difference is that we're passing a list, but why does it do it that way? If you're learning Python, what they tell you is just that these variables here are immutable. So they don't change based on if you pass them into the function and then you do something to it. It doesn't change. But for lists are mutable. So that's the explanation that people who, if you're learning Python, that's the explanation you would get. But there's actually a fundamental reason that's happening. And if you know C, you would already know immediately what's going on. So here we have an equivalent C code. We have a function double number and then add tax and then our main function. And then we pass the value here to double number, and then it's going to stay 10. And then we have original prices here. And then we pass it here into add tax. We pass this array in there, and then if you print the array, it's going to give you the same result. So let's run this. So yeah, so there's 10 there. So we print 10. Double number doesn't do anything, but then add tax, it does do something to the original prices. So original prices does change to 105, 210, and 315. And it's readily apparent what's going on. It's because if you look at the functions, so if you look at double number, you're passing in the variable that you're passing in. So it's just going to do something with the value and then return some result from that value. But it's not going to touch the actual object, or it's not going to touch the actual variable here, this int mynum. So when double number does something with this 10 value, it doesn't fundamentally change the int mynum. And this is different than the add tax function. So with add tax in C we have pointers, and so this is a fundamental concept in C, and it actually plays a part in the Python code. But in Python you're not taught what pointers are, but in C you know what pointers are. Pointers are just the reference, or like the address of the variable. So this original prices, it's a variable that has 3 elements. You're actually passing the address to those values. So this is an idea in C called pointers. So you're passing in the pointer to this whole list here. So when add tax gets this prices list, it actually just gets the address to the first element. And then so we iterate through the prices, and then we have to also pass in the counts because we don't know how many elements are in this list. We only have the address to the first element of the list. So we need this count variable to tell us how many times we have to iterate through this list here. So here what we're doing is we're actually modifying the value inside this address. So in the pointer, in the address itself, we're actually modifying it. So that's why when this function is done executing, the values have changed. So this is how things work in C. When it comes to lists, we pass by reference, and then we also pass the count sometimes because we don't know how big the list is. So we have to pass the count as well. And then for variables, we just pass by value. So in C, this is how you understand this is how you have to do things. Because when it comes to programming, for example, in add tax, like maybe you're wondering why not just have the argument be like the whole list, like a copy of the whole list. But say the list has 100 elements in it. You don't want to put an argument in here with 100 elements into add tax. It's a lot simpler and a lot faster from a memory standpoint to just pass the address of that list of 100 elements, and then you can pass 100 over here, and that's a lot better than just passing a whole copy of a list of 100 elements. So this is just intuitive, and this is just normal practice in C. You know right away that when you pass an array in there, you're actually modifying not just the value but also the values in these addresses. So this is just something that you intuitively know because of your background in C. And that's what this guy was referring to. He said if you live your entire Python life blissfully unaware that everything is a pointer, then you're missing out on a fundamental concept in programming. You're missing out on some of the foundations of software development. And he also says here it's worth learning a language like C to gain an appreciation for how truly complex a lot of things that Python allows you to do are. And that's a really true statement. If you compare the C version versus the Python version, like here's the Python version, it's only 16 lines and you don't have to worry about pointers. It just does everything automatically for you. And then, but in C, you have to worry about making sure that you specify that this is a pointer. And then you have to also include the count in here. And then this is more lines, it's like 24 lines. But see, even in the print, I do like this is really simple. This is what I really like about C, is that it really forces you to pay attention to the types. So here we have an int type, and then we have a double type, and then we have to pay attention to how we display them. But in Python, you don't have to care about what the types are. You just write original prices equals blah blah blah, and then you print. And data types are actually really really important to know. You have to know that as on a fundamental level as a software developer. What is the difference between one type versus another, and when to use a certain type. These are things that you would take for granted if you're coding in Python. All right, so there you go. That's a quick example of how learning C can really help you really understand Python a lot better and give you a better intuition on what's happening in Python. And like that other guy said in that post, he felt that if you just learn Python, you're unaware of a lot of important concepts when it comes to software development. And so this is why I always recommend that people learn C as well, even if you're not going to go into like embedded software development, or even if you're not going to code in C professionally. C helps you learn those foundational concepts that you can apply in the higher level languages. And so even for me, like I said, in my experience, I learned C first, and then that really gave me a good foundation for picking up other languages. So I can easily pick up C Sharp, C++, Python, JavaScript. So I coded in all of these other languages, and I could readily understand what was going on because of this background I had in C. Alright, that's it for this week's video. I hope it helped you understand what people mean by learning C can really help you learn the higher level programming languages. And like I mentioned earlier, I have a free guide for you that you can download called my High IQ Software Checklist Guide. And it's just a checklist that you can go through as you audit your code, just to make sure that you're following some high IQ principles in your program. And hopefully it will give you some ideas to improve your program and make it more robust and more professional. And if you want to learn more about how to go from being a junior developer to a professional developer, you can check out this video over here, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.